Welcome everybody to the Latin Nerds Network. My name is Jose and this is my review for The Accountant Part 2. Of course, the highly anticipated, long-awaited sequel to the original, and I'm using those terms very, very loosely. It was a movie which was not seen by a lot of people. Of course, this came out in 2016, so it's been about 8 years. It's been a while. But I enjoyed the first one. I thought it was kind of underrated. I wish more people had gone out and seen it. Maybe it did in streaming, which is why they got a sequel to it. But of course, this one here, starring Ben Affleck, who plays a different kind of character, which I like because you don't see this kind of character. He's a badass, got military training, can kill with the best of them. But he is an accountant by day trade, right? But he works as an accountant personally as far as helping other people. But he also does a lot of unsavory work for those organizations, criminal organizations around the world, laundering money, etc. But I like the fact that he is on the spectrum as far as Ben Affleck's character, right? So it's not your typical kind of hero, if you will, for lack of a better word. But he's very socially awkward, but he's got a keen mind for problem solving, puzzle solving, numbers, very analytical mind, which helps him do his day job and makes him a very effective at what he does and who he goes after, and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, we got Jon Bernthal returning on this one as well. Goes to his brother. Who's also he does a lot of assassin work over securities, et cetera, et cetera. So he's brought back in this one as well, in a much bigger capacity. We only saw him for the most part at the end of third act as far as the original. But this one, bringing him back, and this one I gotta say, listen, I like the first one. This one I enjoyed as well. It takes kind of a different approach than the first one does. This was a lot lighter, funnier film, but sometimes a little bit silly at times. And the action is toned down in terms of the amount of it. And not that the first one had a lot of action, but it had more pepper throughout. This one really just kind of focuses the action and the third act right towards the end. But that's okay because the journey there was interesting. Of course, Ben Affleck, who is out living his RV somewhere, and J.K. Simmons, of course, who was I think head of the financial securities department or whatever, investigations or whatever the case is. He's kind of semi-retired, and he's doing private work, PI work, and he's looking for a lost kid. He gets beginning of the film, he gets killed in the process, but leaves a note, of course, his former employee to find the accountant, of course. And he brings him in. Accountant brings him in to resolve whatever mystery he was trying to uncover and find this missing child, if you will. So he gets back in. He calls his brother if he can use his help because obviously the organization who might have his kid is maybe a little too much for him to handle by himself. So then that's kind of what the basic premise of the film, right? But listen, I love that, the dynamic between Bernthal and Affleck that really works well here because it's so completely opposite spectrums in terms of personality. So they clash, but in a funny way. And I thought they had a really good dynamic, and I enjoyed that throughout the film. That was really something that the first one lacked. But this one, it may have overdone it a couple of times, a couple of scenes, one in the beginning, but after the initial sequence in the beginning, where he's kind of doing a speed dating, which just felt awkward. And I was watching the film like, oh, this is not going the way I would like this movie to go. But luckily we get maybe another scene kind of like that, where he's in a kind of a country music club or whatever. Line dancing was kind of silly and dopey. It didn't quite fit with the rest of the film. But those two scenes aside, the other humor did work, right? Their dynamic, their banter, that was funny. But again, it's not one where I thought it really elevated beyond the first one because it is a little bit slower. Still interesting. I still enjoyed it. I still like the character of what Ben Affleck is doing here. Something different, unique. I love Bernthal. I love Bernthal. Everything he does. Big fan of his. I love him here. But ultimately, again, it's not one where if you're a fan of the account, I think you're going to enjoy this one. I liked it. It was fine, enjoyable. You can go to the theater and check it out. You could spend your money worse doing other things. If you haven't seen the first one, you probably won't see this one. But if you want a huge fan of the first one, I'm not sure if this is really going to change your mind about the franchise itself. But if you are a fan of the franchise, it is entertaining enough. It's, the action scene at the end is well made and good characters. It is funny, it's just a little bit slower. So kind of keep it in mind if you guys go decide to watch this film. But if you do watch it, comment below and let me know what you guys think. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe below and feel me to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.